Bugle Call is the shit. Bugle Call is awesome. Bugle Call is love. We need more Bugle Call in our life. You should read Bugle Call. Now you may immediately remark, my brother, hold on. Why would I read the manga about evil trumpets? Well, don't worry. I'm finna tell you right now. In this video, I'm gonna start explaining shit. And you finna listen. The boy himself, our main character, Luca. He is the bugler of a band of rowdy-ass niggas, otherwise known as mercenaries, you know? Now, what we noticed immediately about Luca that's different from other protagonists is his just extreme hope and he's such an optimist. Luca hates everything in this world except music, only looking around and seeing violence since, as far as he's known, being in a band of fucking mercenaries. The one dream or a positive thing he does have in this terrible world he lives in is he wants to become a maestro. That's his main goal, which we learn one night where he's talking to his surrogate father, Gerhardt. Gerhardt found Luca on like a fucking porch or something. Luca's a weird kid, as you see immediately. He has a whole ass horn sticking out of his head. So not a lot of people in this weird medieval-like world are gonna want to deal with that, you know? So this band of mercenaries took him in. Guy's been acting as basically Luca's father for a long time. One thing we do learn about Luca's music, though, is that it is so amazing and so awesome that apparently it just radiates through the night sky like a constellation, and you can literally see the outlines of his music. He definitely doesn't have superpowers. So after Luca and Gerhardt have this conversation, we get to see our first look the next day at the other branched, or, you know, branched hexed as they call them, led by Sir Flute Hat. Another group of motherfuckers with branches sticking out of their head roll up on Gerhardt and his band of mercenaries as they're working a job. We learn that guy with a flute on his head is basically the leader of this branch group. They immediately send in somebody named Zoe, just one girl. And this girl immediately begins to just stomp out the troops on the other side of the battlefield, just running through them, even sends a horse flying, and it falls straight into Luca. Well, Luca and the other fodder motherfuckers around him. But we don't care about them. Luca got a stab wound, that's what we care about. Luca, not really knowing anything about medicine and, you know, being a child, decides that he's going to remove the splinter, that's this gigantic wood piece that's in his side, and he immediately starts profusely bleeding. Luca is now legitimately on death's door and decides that with his final act, he's going to drag himself to the top of this hill and he gonna play his bugle one last fucking time, goddammit. Luca plays that bugle with his last dying breaths, and we see his powers activate like they never have before. More than he's ever seen, too. Probably should have been mentioning this, but it's not just Zoe kicking their ass, you know. Everybody's getting their ass kicked on Luca's side. So they all take note of this horn immediately. Luca is normally the one who gives the troops, the mercenaries, their commands through his bugling. But this battle, they told him to sit it out. But right now, with his dying breaths, once again, he decides that he's gonna give them commands and help everybody escape. And everyone immediately can see his intentions through his powers. What we see now is that Luca's powers, the constellations, they're almost like a guiding light of sorts, like a vein, like veins, telling you where to go, telling you what to do, how to move, how to think. And he leads his former family to a swift retreat, while the army that they were hired by just basically gets shit on by the rest of the branched. After saving his friends and sitting on the top of a hill, looking down at them, watching a beautiful view, Luca finally collapses from his ridiculous horse injuries. Immediately, Mr. Flutehead, who has been monitoring his powers and their activation this entire time, he and his troop arrive at Luca's side. We get to see the abilities of another member of the Branch Hex who can take on the wounds of another person, which sounds pretty lame, but I promise this shit is crazy. He can also pass the wounds on to other people. Once in a stable condition, Flutehead makes Luca an offer to come and join him in his band of Branched Hexed, leaving behind this band of ruthless mercenaries and his surrogate father, Gerhardt. Gerhardt immediately comes in and has some protesting at first, but we realize he's only protesting for Luca's sake, even complimenting Luca's commands in the song that he played today, saying that it was better than ever. He requests to Flutehead that the only condition that he has is for them to teach Luca to become a maestro and give him the dream that he wanted. Fluteface agrees, and he takes Luca away with the other members of the branched hex, and leaving Gerhardt behind, it seems like he passes away. Shout out to that man Gerhardt, you know. He was a real one, you know, raised that little ass baby nobody wanted, you know. Kept putting his ass on porches, nobody wanted his ass. When we link back up with Luca, he's waking up from a long rest in Thermes City, the holy capital. And we find out the name or the title of Fluteface is the Pontiff. Now that Luca is awake and they're back at home base, the Pontiff makes a proposition to Luca to help him protect his homeland using Luca's powers. In exchange for this, he will teach Luca how to become a maestro himself. This request brings us to the end of chapter 1. On to chapter 2, motherfucker. Chapter 2 starts with an explanation on the spires. We learned at the end of the last chapter that the spires are the source of the branch's power, or the branched power. We learned that the spires are basically like an inheritance from an ancient civilization. The Pontiff tells us that there are an innumerable number of cultural and technological relics found in the spires. And through analyzing the relics, that's what has allowed humanity to get as far as it has gotten in their world. Analyzing the relics as well and holding the spire in reverence is a symbol of their faith and religion. The beautiful, awesome religion of Spirism. Spirism? Spirism. We get a look at this badass living quarters called the Great Wood Manor that Luca and the rest of the branched are going to be staying in. At least it looks badass on the outside. It's badass compared to walking around with a bunch of smelly fucking mercenaries all day. There's a lot of secrets going on here. First off, the common people aren't allowed to know the significance of the branched individuals or their powers. I think the reasons are pretty obvious. The Pontiff still says that they aren't oblivious though, and the troops that serve them are more or less aware of what really is going on, and the rumors are whispered among the people that live outside of the Spirelands. This is where we finally get introduced to the evil trumpet itself. Here is where we get some very good information, learning that Luca has never actually even seen a fucking trumpet, and apparently the Pontiff says that they got it from the spire. I don't know how true that is. He says its mechanics are too complex for our craftsmen. This is where Luca is inducted into the Protect the Spire squad. But before that, he's going to have to demonstrate his powers once again to the Pontiff and the other branched hex. This is where Luca is formally introduced to Zoe and Demi, the two branched hex who were chilling with the Pontiff last chapter. Zoe was stomping shit out, and I think she was the only one that got named. The Pontiff then begins showing Luca ships forming a blockade in their waters, and he tells him that the spire and all its contents are directly linked to the power of their entire nation. This is also where we get to see firsthand the sway or the absolute power that the Pontiff holds over the nation, as he just commands like 30 million niggas to come pull up right now, pull up. He tells Luca that his demonstration today is going to require him to command all these troops to eliminate the enemy on the beach that are trying to take the castle. He wants them eliminated down to the last man. Thus, Luca, who is at first pretty scared of the weight of this task and bringing up that he doesn't really have much experience, he begins to demonstrate. Mind you, big homie Luca is doing this for a fucking trumpet. Mind you, big homie Luca is doing this in exchange for a trumpet. We then get to see Luca's raw power from the ground level through the eyes of the troops that are on the battlefield. He explained that it's almost as if their bodies are on autopilot while they follow the light and sound from Luca's bugle, telling them the perfect move to take next. We also find out that those who hear Luca's horn get a sort of morale boost when they hear it. We learned this from a prisoner that the Pontiff took after the last battle. The commands that Luca gives feel like free will. People who simply see the light from the sidelines, though, aren't directly affected or commanded by Luca's powers. And you think that Luca doesn't really know shit and this is gonna be a complete disaster, but turns out he was lying. Who would have guessed? We learn from Luca's memories that Gearhart actually taught him everything he knows about battle and tactics for some reason. Probably because he considered him his son. But Luca has a deep fucking bag of knowledge when it comes to issuing commands and winning a battle. This leads Luca to systematically breaking down his enemy until eventually just flat out surrounding them. This then demonstrates to everyone that he can use his powers and that they are awesome, and he gets his cool fucking trumpet. And on the ground level, we see that some of the troops are saying they actually enjoyed the battle. So I guess those are the effects of his morale boost, After the enemy is completely surrounded, Zoe jumps in and starts stomping on niggas' necks with her ridiculous immense strength. And we learn that she's basically a super soldier. That's her branched ability. She has super strength and durability. She is considered one of the strongest members of the branched who work with the Pontiff. After the battle, Luca receives his prize, the fucking Trumpet of Doom. The Pontiff then has Demi show us and Luca their enemy, the Aaron Empire, using her powers, and this is where we get the explanation on those. Demi's branched ability is extreme eyesight. She can see basically across the entire nation, seemingly across any and all obstacles, and from I don't even know what point of view. She can also share this ridiculous eyesight ability by covering one eye and having the person who she wants to share it with cover theirs as well. We find out that the Aaron Empire also has their own spire, and that there are 9 spires in total. The 2 biggest are owned by the Aaron Empire and the Pontiff's Nation. That's not really the name. I completely forgot the name, honestly. The Pontiff lets us know that the reason that he is so against the Aaron Empire is due to his vendetta with a man named Garland, who is also a branched hex. Garland is described to be basically a fucking monster who only appeared just 4 months ago. And he's been toppling and scarring multiple fucking empires around the spires. The Pontiff tells Luca that he was specifically hired to kill Garland. Now, Luca doesn't really even want to do this job because at this point he's kind of realizing, I just went from one war just straight into another fucking war, traveling band of fighters again. But the Pontiff lets him know that he may quit this job after they murk this nigga Garland, after they get his ass off the map, leaving one band of ruthless murderers to just join a potential band of respectable murderers. Luca vows that he's done bugling forever after this shit. After the job is finished, he's done with that. The Pontiff agrees, with a flute still on his fucking head, and they shake hands. He then decides afterwards, though, to inform Luca that this nigga Garland single-handedly destroyed an entire nation by punching them. He punched them all into oblivion, leaving only a smoldering wasteland after a single attack? Yeah, this nigga OP. The chapter ends right there. This nigga is OP. Yeah, I see why Luca not really fucking with this world. That's chapter 2. Let's get on to chapter 3, bro. The final one. The new chapter begins and we find out that the Pontiff wants Luca to be the captain of his own group of branched. Also, Revel is the name of their nation. That's the name of their nation. This is where Luca meets Mayura, tied up in a bed. Mayura is the most I'm gonna backstab you looking motherfucker we ever see, and him and Luca share the same ideas on hating this world. Because of this, him and Luca make fast friends and immediately start hanging out together. Mayura gives Luca the idea that he can actually be happy here. We find out that the other branch don't really hang out with Mayura much or each other that much, and this is probably why the Pontiff tasked Luca with turning them all into comrades and being their captain. These dudes basically have no say in whatever they do or be. Whatever Big Daddy Pontiff Flutehead says goes. Pontiff then lines them all up, Demi, Zoe, Mayura, Luca, and tells them he wants the group to take back a fort that was previously thought to be abandoned. It has over 100 soldiers there as of right now. Apparently the fortress is also quite impenetrable, but that's cool, no problem for them, for the Justice Gang. The Pontiff tasked Mayura with joining the team as it's going to be his first mission, somehow. Oh, I wonder why he hasn't had his first mention is because he's gonna betray Luca. Oh, is he evil? Ooh, no. Mira just spills the beans to Luca that he's a fucking coward. He's just straight up a coward. That's why he was tied up in the bed. He tried to run away, and they captured his ass and brought him back and made him go on a mission. Mayura has been crying for hours, basically, at this point, and he lets Luca know through the tears that some branches have powers that kind of fucking suck. This is where we get the obligatory backstory dump. And we learn that the reason that he's even living in this nation is because he was in the nation that Garland punched to fucking devastation, punched into submission. Now, the pontiff assumed that he'd want revenge for this, but Miura feels absolutely somehow no anger at all. Even though his mom died in the attack, apparently all he felt was relief that it wasn't him under the rubble. You know, him and Luca are sounding pretty similar at this point. Miura basically begs Luca afterwards to keep him alive tonight when their operation ends. Because, he's a coward. He doesn't want to do it anyway. Not gonna lie, I kind of understand him, because why would he want to do any of this? Genuinely, your nation got destroyed and you say, by a nigga with one attack, and you meet a nigga with a flute on his head who tells you, hey, you trying to go get back at that guy? Hell no, I'm not, dude. What? Also, Demi is a tsundere. I just wanted to throw that in. It's pretty obvious at this point, but yeah. Now, at this part, this is where we get to see Mayura's branched ability. We find out that he has super ridiculous speed. The only drawback is his eyes can't even keep up with his speed, and he's very likely to smash into walls. So he doesn't think it's a good ability. It's kind of not with that restriction. But combined with Luca's abilities as well as Demi's eyesight, Miura can essentially be unstoppable. So Demi shares her eyesight with Luca so he can track the movements of Miura. And we learn that her eyes are just so good they can also see things at extreme high speed and tracks their movements. So this is a ridiculous fucking eyesight power. These two powers make Miura a super threat who can infiltrate and clear the fortress or cause a distraction so they can enter from the main gate. Rewind back to the earlier conversation between Luca and Miura. Luca offers Miura a chance to escape. He says, bro, just give me a signal and I'll help you get out of here. Fuck it. I'll just show you the path and you dip. Like, that's all I need. But we go through the whole operation and Miura just doesn't do it. Miura goes in, he fucking slices everybody up, just fucking tears through their forces, man. Like, they stand absolutely no chance against his ability. He catches everyone off guard and they take the fortress pretty handily. Miura, at the end of the operation, is filled with a newfound hope and believes that maybe he also can find happiness here with Luca. This seems to be exactly what the fucking pontiff wanted. He's clearly playing 4D chess. This is exactly what he wanted. After Miura's totally tubular rampage, the main forces just retreat out of the front gate, and they clean them up pretty handily and take back the fort. Whoa, yay! Where, yeah, Luca! Transition to the next day, where we see Luca bargaining with the pontiff, telling him that Miura wants the same deal he got. When Garland is dead, he wants out. The pontiff agrees under the condition that Luca accepts the role as a captain, as only captains can give out fucking requests, can ask requests like that. Luca accepts, but he doesn't really want to. Moving on to the end of the chapter, Demi pulls up on Flute Face and tells him that there are troops marching towards Revel and that there are branched hex among them. This is where we get the insane fucking reveal that the pontiff is Gerhardt, Luca's dad. Either that or he like stole his face or some shit. Either that or he's his twin brother. Either that or he's Luca's dad. The final few pages show us that the branch hex also have some insane powers on the other side. And we get two big fucking reveals at the end of this chapter. Along with the Gerhardt reveal, we find out that for some reason they're pulling up here because they're trying to capture Luca. apparently taking him out will save the world. The fate of the world rests on it. It will bring peace. I don't know what the fuck Luca had going on when he was a baby, but there was a reason he was on their porches, bro. And that right there is where we end chapter 3 of Bugle Call. I gotta say, one of the best things about Bugle Call is every single one of these chapters had an insane reveal at the end. Just insane. Just makes you completely interested in continuing to read. After the end of each chapter, these first 3, I was literally mouth wide open, just like, what the fuck? Like, there's no way. The first chapter didn't really have a big reveal per se, but just the ridiculous expansion of the world building, I just love it. This manga has super potential, and you should read it right fucking now, bro. And I'm telling you, this is going to be the next big thing. If this don't get axed, I pray it don't get axed. But this is going to be the next big thing. Please go read Evil Trumpets. Please go read Bugle Call.